Hello, my name is Steve Herberman, and I'm so glad you could join me for part 2 of jazz phrasing. This time we're going to take a look at triplet rhythms of all kinds, and again we're going to employ the hemiola figure. So these are dealing with cross rhythms and not just the normal triplet type of rhythms that you're going to see. In other words, we're just going to be accenting them differently and grouping them in different ways, as far as maybe instead of triplets going 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and right on the beat like that, we're going to be adding, let's say, a note. So that triplet would be counted 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and we're going to still be playing the same note durations, but we're just going to be adding a note. So it would sound like this: 1, 2, 3, 4. There's the regular triplet. I'm adding a note now. Now, as you can hear, that's adding some really nice rhythmic tension to your phrasing. And that's the whole thing. We're trying to open this thing up. So instead of phrasing more squarely, this is going to be more of an over the bar line situation. And it's really what the basis of jazz is all about, is cross rhythms, one rhythm against another. And this particular rhythm, if you're not familiar with it right now, I guarantee you when you start listening to your recordings, you're going to be hearing it now that you know what it is. For those of you that are already familiar with the rhythm, maybe you've been looking for a way to practice this. So right off the bat, I'm just going to jump into some of the foundational exercises. And the way the class is structured, this part 2, is that we're going to have some foundational exercises that are sort of like prerequisites, just to sort of talk about the rhythms, to understand them a little bit better before we start employing them over tunes and use a tune-based approach to playing these. So I think the easiest place to start would be with D-dorian. Basically all the natural notes, right? C major scale starting from D. And instead of grouping them again in groups of 3 with eighth note triplets, you would count eighth note triplets 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And we're going to be adding an extra note. So that's going to be the first example. Okay, so that was example number 1. And basically I went up to a D minor 7 up here, and then I came back down, and then ended on this chord. Next we're going to look at number 2, and that is just going to be using one note. So it's going to sound like this. Now, that was probably an easier example than the first one, right? Because we're just playing one note. But, I mean, it just depends. Maybe for some folks, the first one would be easier because you know your diatonic seventh chords. By the way, just a quick note, if you see me fingering something a little bit differently than in the tablature, don't be concerned. It's just because I'm sight reading it, and this is open to many different fingerings and positions and so forth, so please don't feel locked in. Okay, we're going to take a look now at example number 3A, and that is third intervals and grouping them in twos, in two-note groupings. And that really just has to deal with the accents, but it also might deal with how you're laying it out on the instrument. So on the instrument, let's say you might want to do thirds, diatonic thirds in D-dorian, you might do them this way. You might do them on one string set for a while and then switch over. So you're thinking of them as two-note groups because your fingering or position is going to change after every two notes. So that might be helpful to think about that way. I think I've indicated this one, though, in second position. So I'm just going to go ahead and play this thing in second position. But I might try to do it lengthwise as well, and I think that would be a good idea for you to try as too. So basically, to get the lay of the land, we're going to go up to the F and then come back down. And please feel free to extend these if you'd like. Also, a note about the accents. You can put the accents wherever you want. I could have started it on the first beat and gone 2, 3, 4. I could have accented the first note, but I'm accenting the second just because I like the way it sounds a little bit better. But it doesn't really matter. We're still grouping them in twos that way. Of course, we can group these in fours, but it's just it's something to be aware of, that you want to change where the accents are and change the note groupings to see what that will yield, okay? Exercise 3A. And now I'm going to go up a little higher, and I'm going to go across the guitar, up length. Notice I changed directions there at one point. So instead of going, I might have been coming down, I was doing things like change the direction of the note. I did that up higher where I was going. Now that sounds a heck of a lot different than playing them on the beat and going, that kind of thing. Or if we grouped them in threes and we went 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. That's a more square phrasing than if we go 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And of course it does have to do with the accents as well, okay? So that was 3A. Now 3B, we've got a different kind of triplet. We've got a quarter note triplet, and there's going to be 6 of them per measure. Think about it this way. Count them. I've had many students that have had trouble counting these, and they say, well, I just feel them, and sometimes they feel them fine, and I don't bother them. But some other times, they're not really playing them metronomically. So you have to place these notes very evenly, and one way to do it is to think of the 8th note triplet like what we were just playing. I'm going to count. I'll show you what I'm talking about. Here's 8th note triplets. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 3 and 1 and 3 and. The way I was counting it the second way was a little bit more accurate, because 1 and then 3, when I'm saying the number 3, that's the second half of the measure. That's That's beat 3 in 4/4. So we're going 1, instead of 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and we're skipping every other note. Think about it as a tie, perhaps. Like 1 and ah, so 1 and ah, 2 and 1. So we're hitting every other one. So if you would like to take a pencil to number 3A, for instance, if you look at example 3A, and you put a tie from the D to the F, then a tie from the E to the G, and then a tie from the F to the A. Those are adjacent notes. Again, tie the first note to the second, the third note to the fourth, and the fifth note to the sixth. Did I say that right? First to the second, third to the fourth, fifth to the sixth. Then you get 1 ah and 2 ah and, or more accurately, 1 ah and 3 ah and. That's how we're going to count 3B, okay? That one is going to go up to the G and then back down. And again, we're doing thirds. So we're going up to the G, and then we're coming back down. Or the chord I ended with was this one. All right, so let's do that one now. 1, 2, 3, 4. Lengthwise. Back down. Going up one, down the next. Okay, so yeah, this one's a lot of fun. Quarter note triplets. Now, 3C. We're going to play the same quarter note triplets, except we're going to play these as seventh chords, so it's an asymmetrical phrasing. This is a little bit difficult, this one. 1, 2, 3, 4. Back down. Try to catch the accents. And with 3C, adding that extra note gives it an asymmetrical feeling, because if we didn't do that, we would have this 3, 4. We would have 1 and like this. And we add the extra note 3, 2, 3, 4. We add the extra note. And it gives it more of a floaty kind of feel. And it's just, I think the more different ways that you can split up a rhythm, the more varied your playing will become. And that's what we're looking for in our playing, is rhythmic variety. As many different kinds of rhythm as you can employ, you should go after, because it will affect everything. It will affect your comping, your soloing, your writing, composing. And the way you feel music, the way you feel rhythms, it colors everything about your music. And a lot of these are, I feel, I've noticed actually with myself and students over the years, that they're like rhythmic roadblocks that you need to get through. You need to sort of plow them down in order to get to the next level, get to the get freer phrasing in your music. Well, thanks for being with me for part 2 of jazz phrasing. And the next class, jazz phrasing part 3, is going to be dealing with 16th notes and all the different kind of ways we can employ hemiola and accents to imply cross rhythms with 16th notes. Still, we're going to be going against 4/4 because that is common time after all. In one of the later parts, we're going to institute 3/4, 4/4 superimpositions over 3/4.